a fantastic skier. I like pretty much go anywhere, any ski hill, and I know that I'm probably one of the better guys there, even if I spend a year or so off the ski.
Yeah.
But the like what taught me that what that taught me is that like, and that's why honestly when I watch Supercross, like I'm amazed, but I'm like, of course, like if you spend that much time, you have that many resources, you better be fucking good. Like
Yeah.
you have no excuse. You
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
of like guys, people watch guys that do amazing things with a hockey stick or something like that. I'm like, if you spent 7 days a week, 4 hours a day
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
the ice, you
Yeah.
could do it too.
Yeah.
And it's something that a lot of people just they've just never bought into something that much or
Yeah.
had that much instruction. Like I tell a lot of people like, oh, you're really good at skiing, and I'm like, yeah, like I've spent more time on skis than probably 99% of people. And not only was it more time on skis, it was educated and like you're so I was taught those hours. It wasn't just going out and fucking around with my buddies. Like I
Yeah.
was trying to learn shit. I was
Yeah.
trying to do it perfect for
Yeah.
200 days rather than just like, oh, go ski and like just go do your turns for 200 days. Like I was trying to be perfect 200 days straight with a coach that was like, now was shit, do it again. So like there's just like so much more value in that, and I think that if you've been through that, say with motocross or skiing or whatever it happens to be, you can take the effort level and the commitment needed to be good at that and then redirect it at being good at something else. And that's why you see like athletes that become great announcers or great business people is like they didn't have a extra education or something. They just knew that there's more effort to be needed to be great, and that they know what that level feels like, and they know when they're not giving it. You know what I mean? And that's what allows them to rise above and grab that level that is elite, because those who haven't felt that, those who haven't experienced what it's like to absolutely be the best person in the room at something, they and be and know it because you walked out with a trophy or that everyone's just looking at you like, holy crap, that person's next level. Um, that's something that's lost on anybody else that hasn't been there. But if you've been there, you know it, and you can replicate it wherever you go.
Yo, dude, totally agree. It makes me question if talent's even a real thing, man. Like, I think too many people are all caught up in like you're either born good on a skateboard or not, and really it's just like, yo, like I love skating, and like you keep it at a level where you're having a good time and you're not burning yourself out. So we kind of go with this like natural like a flow state, kind of in between, like
Yeah,
being
you're like a
stressed.
B
And
minus.
joyous. So just like that perfect fucking in between, and that way you're always skating, having fun with your friends, so you never burn out. You just like, and then you're next thing you know, 15 years later, you're shooting videos and you're Najee Houston because you've just been skating and you're having a good time. When real people are like, they try it once and they're like, oh, I suck, I'm not going to do it. And then they give up and
Yeah.
they just think because they suck.
Oh yeah, Najee Houston has more time on a skateboard than I have probably driven a car in my entire life. I'm 32 years old. Like all those guys, like you think of like probably like yourself, even though you haven't ridden in a long time, you've probably ridden a motorcycle more hours than I've spent driving in my
Yeah.
life. And that's something I do every day. Like it's got to feel like walking, and like yeah, it looks like talent because it's like that's what people want to label it, because it's like, oh, like that's he can do that because of this. Like no, he can do that because he worked at it. He
He just
broke it
didn't
down to
stop.
the
Figured it out.
absolute
Yeah.
fundamentals, practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced until it was absolutely perfect. And then they did repetition until it was so cemented that it becomes muscle memory. That's what looks like talent, but it's just hard work.
You're totally right, dude. Like I don't think that I think there are I don't want to say that like I think there's certain things that someone may pick up faster than you. Like you like as you're learning things, like if you have like two people both at the same rate learning something, like one kid might just happen to get lucky his first try and figure it out and be like, oh shit, I got it. And so he may progress that step a little quicker, and you may call that talent. Really just like he just figured it out quicker than you're like. So it's like
Yeah, that's just
people move
that's
at
up
different
here.
rates, but
That's sometimes it takes you
ultimately
50 tries, sometimes it takes you 100 tries, but like I don't think talent is the ability to like uh create a neural pathway faster. That just means that you understood it. Like I remember when I learned backflips on skis, I did the first 50 of them straight to my head, fucking straight to my head. And then as soon as it clicked, one of my coaches said basically like I want you to go upside down and pull your legs. And that verbal cue was like, okay, pull. Went upside down, pulled my legs around, right to my feet. I never didn't land a backflip for the rest of my career. I've done hundreds of backflips.
Yeah, I think that like it's almost like I think there could be a manual for like literally becoming professional at something. And like if you took a baby and ran them through the whole cycle and like just did the right steps, they would be there because you it sounds like like the brain is plastic. You can rewire your brain to do shit it's not even supposed to do. Like you can learn new languages and so you can learn how to do shit like no one's incapable of like doing things. They just may take them long, but they can figure it out if they try hard enough and long enough. It just
Totally.
you get frustrated and you'll give up. It's like that's how the brain works. It's kind of like you have to force yourself to do it. And so if you can kind of create an environment where it's like narrow, where you can only focus on one thing at a time till you figure those steps out, and then you go to step two. Just like talk about in elementary school, man. Like they're only doing certain things for like amount of time, so they all figure out addition at the same time, and they're all like, I think that like most skills are the same way. It's just like, but people just veer off because they get bored and they just say fuck it, like, and they just give up. And so I think it's all mindset. But I think even like that could be instilled too. Like if you hang around people who are positive, you're gonna become a positive person.
Absolutely. And I agree. Like a lot of people will only take their level of education to the level that they're needed to be tested on. Like say like you need to learn how to do math and you need to be able to get uh like 8 out of 10 questions right. They'll study enough to the point where they can get 8 out of 10 questions right, but they'll never make sure that they can get 100 like all 10 of them right. Or if they did 100 questions, can they get 100 of them right? Like that level of mastery isn't asked for from a lot of people, and they're just trained to not really go for that. So then they never do. And yeah, like there's a recipe or a blueprint for success. Of course, with that comes like if there's like is in the case of motocross, like that's why all those training facilities exist, where like people are just laser focused on motocross only. The problem is that like with the way the system is set up right now, is that if you don't like say if like on test day on which is would be like one of the big nationals or Loretta's, you just shit the bed on test day, it's over. Like there's no there like you might be the fastest dude at MTF 365 days a year, but on the one day that you went to Loretta's, you shit your pants. Like that's all that anyone sees, right? So it's like um you can rise to that level, but it's the guys that like you just didn't happen to have that crash on that day, like you know what I mean, like that is the difference between success and being able to make money at it. But to be good on a motorcycle or to be good at anything just takes time and commitment.
It's consistency, man, right? And like
Yeah.
I think if you I think too like what I've done for myself for doing things that like is rehabbing through my injury, there's a lot of like things that like just aren't fucking cool or fun to do. But like if you find ways to reward certain behavior, like you like so like I work out like I go to the gym, like I wake up at 6 a.m. every single day and I'm in the gym Monday through Friday. But then
Yep.
weekends I fuck off, I hang out, dude. So
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I reward myself because I'm like it feels like a hard earned like chill weekend, dude. So like
Yeah.
your brain gets like I think it kind of you train your brain to like become in these habits where you're just like that's what you do. Every single day I fucking wake up at 6 and I go to the gym. That's what you do, and your brain just you figure that
Yep.
shit out. And I think you have to
Definitely.
write. I think you have to write goals down too. Man. I think that's important. Like
Yeah,
you
i
always
think
have
i
to,
think
you always
that's
have to
really
like know where you're
important.
going, dude.
I think what works for me is I think about where I want to do, like what I want to do, like what's my goal. Okay, what do I need to do to get there? Like say whether it's being learn how to play the guitar or do 100 podcasts this year. Like you're not going to wake up tomorrow and do 100 podcasts in that one day, but I can do one podcast. And if I do one podcast a day for if I do two a week for 52 weeks, that adds up. You'll have 100 podcasts. And like people always say like, well, how do you get so good at interviewing people? I'm like, well, this is going to be episode 782. No, 790.
Come on.
So like do something, do anything 790 times. I bet you'll be good at it.
Yeah.
I like, and if you're not, like fucking do something else, because like if you did anything 790 times and you're no fucking good, like you're not even trying.
I have this like this theory if you want to call it whatever, but like I've been doing this most of my life, like during my racing career, it was like subconscious, but I always would like listen to music and kind of listen to like good songs and think about what I like. I would do a lot of visualization stuff. And so
That's good.
I think if you say like in your head, you're like, hey, like I want to do X or Y. And then you're putting in all the right work, like you're keeping your body healthy and your brain healthy. Your
Yeah.
brain subconsciously like finds ways to get you to those things. So whether it's like getting to places on time, like being early and like working out, like your brain will just find ways to like make you do it because like you're feeding all the correct energy into that one goal, you know. And I think you end up. So I always tell people, I'm like, you just like listen to good music and so you're in a good mood and visualize things. So I
Definitely.
think that you can figure you can I think you can figure stuff. I think you end up doing shit that like shit starts happening that you didn't really. I don't know. Like so I've had weird shifts in my life where like before I got hurt, man. This is kind of trippy, but like I remember like being in California. Like I had just got fit to Houston and like I just went pro and I was doing all this. I was traveling. I was finally like where I wanted to be, but I was like, shit, dude. Like it's not as cool as I thought it was gonna be. Like it was getting really serious to the point where I was like sponsors and everything. I was like, I just wanted to like go buy like some Vans and like or do something, but like I was all locked in. I had to wear like only certain clothes and stuff. And so I remember just thinking like, I don't know, this is not as cool as I thought it was gonna be, man. And then like, so then like I ended up breaking my collarbone at before Atlanta Supercross, and I was hanging out like all week, and it ended up like I was like messing around with Photoshop, and I was doing shit that I want to do besides motocross, and like I got this weird like enjoyment out of it, dude.
Yeah.
And then like Daytona happened, and I'm like, dude, I wonder if I was asking for that shit, man. Like part of me thinks that like I might have been overriding. I don't know, dude. So I think
Yeah.
you have to. I think it's important that you have to, like I said, ride in that weird wave. You just have to like. You have to. That's why I think like Anderson is not like Anderson and Cooper Weber are super good at that. Like I think Anderson always has a good time. And you can just tell he's happy doing what he's doing. And so like that, I think that is a long term sort of approach that.
Yeah. They have more longevity because of that. And that's why I
Yeah,
think they'll
dude.
continue to ride long after their career. I think what happens is like guys like Eli and like just like the robotic guys that
Yeah,
don't allow themselves to have fun is that they don't I don't think they trust themselves to have a little bit of fun.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like they think that they're gonna go and do blank, and
yeah,
then because they did it, like
yeah,
they're gonna want to do more, and they're not gonna be able to find a balance.
yeah,
So like it's kind of gonna run downhill on them, and it's gonna be a runaway freight train where they get really undisciplined, and like they're scared of that. Whereas a guy like Jason's like, no, like I can have six
yeah,
beers. I can
yeah,
have 6 beers on a Wednesday, and I can still go faster than anybody can possibly
yeah.
go on two wheels on Saturday. Like those two things can happen. Like
Dude, have you ever have you ever watched a lot of Jason Lawrence Jason Lawrence like interviews and shit. Like I've heard that. I've heard like, dude, he was so like he would literally go out and like party like the night for the remote, like the weekend, and like fucking top five in outdoor national, and like be like, yo, like I went to bed at like 4 a.m. last night. Like I was like, dude, like that's what makes me believe that like it's all mental because I'm just like, if you can do
yeah,
shit like that, then it's fucking all mental. You can't just not train. Like they wouldn't train and they would brag about it, dude. And they beat people who are training.
well,
And you
that's what
can't
like
really
they talk
explain
about.
that. Like, it's hard to explain.
Chad Reed's 2004 Supercross title is that he would wear sunglasses on track walk because he was fucking still drunk from the night before. And
Yeah, dude.
if it can't be done, like how are like the rest of these elite guys that are not
Yeah,
partying,
yeah.
they're they can't beat this guy who's like fucking hungover? Like, are you kidding me?
That's what freaked me out, man. When I moved to California, like I was so cookie. I was never sheltered at all, but I was very like I was always like so just like I'm already pretty like anxious person. So I'm always like very like oh I get this done because like I'm sure like so and so's not wouldn't do that. So like you got to be like cookie cutter straight. Like and then I went to California. I went to like and I remember like when I went to a party with a buddy. I went to Diana Dahlgren's birthday party. And I was like, dude, I shouldn't be here. Like, I'm racing next weekend. And like that weekend was like the first West Coast round, and Roxon was there, like pounding beers. And I'm like, dude, come on, man. I'm like, I'm tripping over nothing, dude.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like
I'm like, everyone's having I'm like, all these guys are having a good time. And so it's like, you're kind of like deceived on what is actually going on, man.
Well, the thing is like if you allow it to defeat you mentally, that's your problem. If you get drunk and you're out partying and physically you just can't do it, like you're too ill and like your body doesn't allow you to do it on that day, that's a problem. But if you're just like if you mentally take yourself out of it because like I was drinking last night, I feel fine, but I really shouldn't have been drinking. That's gonna fuck with my confidence. It's fucking with my ability to just focus on this race. Then that's on you that like you need to be able to come to terms with like the reality of like okay, yeah, like we went out and had some fun last night. Does that affect today? No, it does not. So you have to make that conscious decision in your mind. I think
next day, right? I mean, like,
yeah,
it's just get your shit. Just like you know what you got to do. Get the shit done and have fun after, dude. Like that's all. It's very simple. Like make sure you're available. Like make sure you're okay to get your shit done and have fun in between. Like there's no reason why that. I mean, you still gotta have a good time while you're living it. Like, cause there's no reason to do what you're doing to get a good time.
Yeah, but no, I think you're on the right track. Honestly, I think you know what I think you would be really good at is being being a mentor to a young rider coming up, like a guy like a Styles Robertson or like even one of the like a Levi Kitchen or something like that, who like they're completely like they're locked into the amateur scene. They don't really. I feel like amateurs is like one level, and then all of a sudden you pop your head above water, and like then you actually see the world for what it is, and it's a huge shock to people. And like I think with maybe if you got in touch with a guy like Lucas Myrtle, who sort of like showed you the ropes of how to like deal with sponsors and talk to these people and talk to those people and how to communicate, I think you'd be a really good influence on some kids who have a lot of talent.
No, 100%. Because like most of the stuff, like I learned just like I learned so much stuff going through my injury, like that I wish I would have known about when I was racing. Like how just like doing certain like breathing exercises and like meditating and shit like that. Like I'm like, oh, dude, like I wish I knew about this when I was racing because it's so beneficial, man. Like there's so many mental hacks I think that people could be doing that like that would improve their ability to perform, man, in so many different ways.
Once we're done this, do you mind sending me the video? Because I see you're recording.
Yeah, of course. I think it drops in our chat, dude. So you'll be able to download it from the chat.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yeah.
If that's not the case, I'll just ask you to send it my way. But either way, if that works, I'll grab it that way. Yeah. But man, if you're ready to rip this thing open, I think we're starting to click here, and we'll have a good flow for the podcast.
Yeah, let's go, dude.
All right, dude. I'll throw down my intro. I'll be off to the races.
Okay, sick.
Welcome to the Big MX Radio Podcast, brought to you by Phoenix Handlebars. Wearing my Phoenix Handlebars hat right now, and I got my Phoenix Handlebars ready to mount on my KTM in the coming weeks. Looking forward to riding in 2020. This podcast is also brought to you by MedTerra CBD. You can go to medterracbd.com and enter discount code BigMXRadio20 to save 20% off every single one of your orders. I'm your host, Brad Gebhart. With us on the line, a very special guest. He was an amateur superstar, a guy that you probably watched on all of the Mini Warriors and the Verb Motos. Lord knows that Verb Wes Williams himself is probably going to listen to this episode 8-12 times minimum. He's going to absolutely lose his mind when he finds out I had this guy on the podcast. He's a friend of mine. We've been talking for about a half hour. We're going to talk a whole lot more after this podcast. Ian Trettel, how's it going?
Hey, man, I'm glad to be here, man.
Hey, thanks for making some time for us, man. I'm so excited about this. Getting to talk to a guy who raced and performed at an extremely high level in what a lot of people would consider to be the absolute pinnacle, the heyday, the very pinpoint of like basically the elite of what the sport was in throughout the mid to late 2000s. Bikes were changing on a yearly basis. The energy drinks came in and just infused so much money and excitement into the sport. You had One Industries hoodies left, right, and center, flat brim hats, and everything in between. And smack dab in the middle was yourself and a ton of other high end superstars from the amateur ranks that were really making some noise and honestly creating a ton of great content that was amazing to follow. I thought it would be a great opportunity to catch up with you and see what you're doing now. You're 28 years old, and you found yourself in the gym. You've been doing all kinds of crazy crap, but I'm really excited to chat with you.
Hey man, it's great to be here, man. So yeah, like I said, like you said, I still train I try to train as if I'm still racing. So I'm in the gym Monday through Friday before I'm at my office job, and so I'm still super active. I road bike in the summer. In the winter, it's chilly here to ride outside, so no road biking in the winter. But the summers, you'll find me on a bicycle and just still doing a lot of motocross training. I still go to hit a race once or twice a year, Supercross, or see some buddies, and still stay in touch with all my friends. So yeah, it's been good.
Right on, man. Well, it's good to hear that you're still staying active, and you gotta stay active, especially with this COVID thing going on. But whereabouts are you located now? What do you call home? And Ian Trettel with an office job? That sounds weird, but tell me how it happened, man.
So I live in Elon, North Carolina, man. It's just like just east of Greensboro. I'm not far from Greensboro, so that's kind of where everyone's from normally familiar with where Greensboro is at.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm in Elon. I work at so my it's I work at my dad's old company. Do
Okay.
inventory control, and something that I started to do like when I got hurt, I started doing ITMX training, and then my dad was doing some stuff in North Carolina more often than he was in Florida, so we ended up moving back to North Carolina, and I started working at my dad's. So just I thought it'd be a good chance for me to kind of learn how to be a good employee, and just I never had a job before, so it was something cool to I was kind of into it, look through the job life, the office, see what it was like, and figure it out. So I learned how to become a good employee, and then just kind of just build some skills from there to help me kind of get my brain right too, coming back from the injury.
Absolutely. A massive change of pace for you. And you allude to that injury that we're going to talk about throughout the podcast a number of times, I imagine. But that's really interesting. Becoming a new, like a, a new employee, someone who, like, everybody else sort of, they get that first job at like 14 or 15 years old. You learn the ins and outs of what it's like to be an employee, and by the time you're an adult, you've learned those lessons. You probably got canned from a few jobs here and there, but you didn't get that opportunity. You were doing something else. You were becoming one of the most elite prospects to come out of amateur motocross in probably the whole decade. And although that's awesome, it doesn't exactly set you up for life after motocross if things don't work out, which I think is a really sad existence for a lot of guys. But you were able to work for your old man and learn those lessons. Tell me about that.
Yes, I mean, like yeah, it is unfortunate, like with motocross, like you're not able to get a formal education normally, like or go to college, like and race. So like
Right.
normally, yeah, you don't find a lot of kids that are super bright. But I mean, I stayed with like I always was into a lot of tech stuff, so I kind of stayed involved with like messing with Xboxes. So I always had like a lot of computer knowledge, and so that allowed me to kind of like when I'm transitioning to an office job, I knew how to figure out just the mindset of racing. Like what are you trying to do? Let's figure it out. And just don't give up till you figure it out, right? Do the proper training, and so it just kind of like yeah. I mean, at first it's a struggle, but it's also cool, refreshing to see what a normal life is like. Is when the day's over at 5, the weekends are off. So there are some in working for someone else is nothing's your fault, right? So it's like um, there's no stress on you. So it's being an athlete is everything's on you. So it's kind of a different shift of I guess just I don't know, like the mental outlook on it is a little bit different, but it's it's a lot less stressful. I'll say that. So there are some pros and cons of it, man. Like,
Yeah,
but yeah, yeah.
it's a pressure cooker being at the top level of any sport. I can only imagine. Obviously, I skied at a high level, but that's nothing compared to what you were doing with the Rockstar Suzuki team, and that's where basically you were the phoenix that was flying, and it unfortunately did not work out as far as a pro motocross career. Let's talk about that injury. Take us through a little bit for those who don't know, for those who aren't as big of a moto nerd as I am, combing through all the old magazines, reading the old issues of the Pickle and play Moto Playground magazines. You were slated to race for Rockstar Suzuki, if I'm not mistaken, the pro team. moving up with guys like Jason Anderson and stuff like that, and you were like I said, a top prospect. You were slated to do amazing things within the sport of motocross, and that unfortunately got derailed for you. Take us through your transition from the amateur scene, of which you were super dominant, and then move forward into to where things unfortunately came to a halt for you in terms of
Yeah,
motocross.
so my journey with Suzuki started. I know it started in fifth grade, so I think I was around like 2001 or something. I was on 11 years old, and that's when I signed with Suzuki. And so I was with Suzuki all the way through. That's kind of why I wanted to stay with them through pro. And so I was Suzuki all the way through. In the A class year, I signed with Bobby Hewitt's amateur team, Team Extreme. And so
Right.
then he had at the time he had a pro team. It was like a satellite team, which is like they had it was like privateer support basically, like pro circuit stuff. And then so it wasn't a factory team yet. They were on Suzuki still. And
Right.
at the time, Baggett was riding for them and like Tommy Hahn. And then 2010, I won. Me and Anderson were racing Loretta's, and I won the A class. He won the pro sport, and we both signed for Bobby's team, and they just got factory support. So I did an outdoor national for Bobby's like the Canada Rockstar Racing Suzuki team before it was factory support. In 2010, I did Southwick, and I finished 10th there. And then following year, like following year Supercross season, that's when we got factory support, and that's when training getting ready for Atlanta. I broke my collarbone, so I missed Atlanta. I bounced back. I was riding the best I've been riding all year because the test track lap times are super consistent. You can tell like when you're having a good day or a bad day because the track never
Right.
changes. And so like that whole week, Bobby didn't actually want me to race, but I was riding like phenomenal. It was a hometown race for me in Florida at Daytona. So I was like, I wanted to go so bad. And so I was like, you got to let me ride. You got to let me race because like you can't like my lap times were great all week. I was riding super well, and so he let me go down there, and then I just like second qualifying practice, something I remember my first one, but the second one, my mom seen me crash. I don't know, like you know how you do like in qualifying you do like one fast, one slow, kind of like hot lap, fast lap,
Yeah.
try different lines. So like I was just doing like fast, slow, and I was making adjustments on my bike, and then like on the slow lap, I don't know, dude, I'd something happen. I endoed in like the weird, like they have, like they have like they have like these like normally it's like a double triple, like these slanted jumps. Did you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I think it was that section, and I think I crashed in that section. I endoed in one of them and hit my head and woke up a month later, dude. Suffered
Wow.
traumatic brain injury. Yeah, so I spent 4 weeks in a coma.
That's insane. Obviously, a major injury to the brain, which is never is always a serious issue, and that left you with a lot of rehabilitation to be done, and a situation where you basically had to relearn a lot of things as well. Um, like that must have been a very confusing time for you coming as you like came out of that, and then the unfortunate realization that the path that would set forth for you, something that was almost as sure as the sun's going to come up tomorrow, that you were going to be enjoy a lot of success in this sport, that came to an end rather quickly. What was like I can't even imagine what that was like for you, but if you can put it into words, the emotions that you would have went through as you sort of come to the realization that life's going to be different now.
So there's not really a moment of clarity in which you realize, holy shit, I just spent 4 weeks in a coma, and it kind of like slowly it's almost like me, it would be like me asking you like, hey man, what was it like to like open up your eyes in like the hospital when you were born? You're like, dude, come on, like
True.
I'm like, okay,
Okay.
what was it like for your first? You're like, okay, like what was it like being 1 year old? Like you're like, I don't know, dude. But like eventually, like somewhere along the line, you kind of like turn online, right? You're like 4 or 5, you start having some memories. So it's kind of like that for me. It's like slowly like seeing my parents' face. I knew something bad happened, like or whatever, and then like still, I'm like, oh, okay, here's what happened. I got it. And then like I didn't even know that I couldn't ride again, dude. Like, I'm so out of it on freaking all the drugs I've been on for 4 weeks being in a medically induced coma. So like I didn't even know I couldn't ride, but I was like, I told my parents, I was like, dude, I think I'm over it. Like, it freaked me out. It was way too much. Like, injuries have never bothered me before, but like, what I went like going through that, like seeing my parents, like seeing that I put them through something, it really bothered me. So like, I was like, before I even knew that, like, I was physically unable to ride, I was like, yeah, I'm over it, dude. Like, I can't do it anymore.
Okay,
Yeah,
so it was more of a like regardless of where my body's at, like you could have been in tip top everything.
yeah. I mean, for the most, yeah, I mean, for the
Mentally, you
most,
had checked
yeah.
out.
At the time, I thought I was like literally because like there's a word for it. I can't. I can't. I don't know what. But there's a. It's like some sort of like where you just deny or like ignore the fact that you're injured. There's a neurological term for that. And so like I went through a small period where like I was like I'm not even really hurt. I probably could walk. I could walk out if I wanted to, but I'm kind of here because like they're just watching over me, sort of. And so
Oh,
I just there's a word. I don't know what it's called, but there's a word for it.
psychosomatic.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know, but like, um, I'm not sure. I went through a small phase of where I wasn't super aware of like what exactly was going on with my body. So I just, it's kind of just like observing almost, if you will, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, like
And
and
you really, I
obviously,
mean, no one would ever. It's hard to really understand that because you can't comprehend it because you've never experienced it. But someone like I've got friends who that I've met through my experience with traumatic brain injury, they all would know what they people that have had it would know what I'm talking about, or have family members that went through it would know what I'm talking about. But it's something that's I think going to be hard to understand for the normal person.
definitely, yeah. Like you said, like try and explain what it was like to when you were born. Can't
Yeah.
do it. But like so quickly for you, going from a super young age, you were immediately thrust into life after motocross. A weird transition, an abrupt transition, and like immediately after that, like what did you do to sort of fill your time and start to rehab things? Because I know physically, like you had a lot of paralysis in your left side and stuff like that. Like that must have been a large undertaking for you. And how long did it take before like I don't know if you're like 100% for like as far as physically right now, but like at what point were you able to be like, yeah, like how long was it before you were essentially 100% physically?
So I think so to kind of try to lay this out like best I can. Like no one ever really fully recovers from any injury. Like once you like injure yourself once, like your body's really never the same. And so, but getting to my point though, like I have an older brother who's in the neurology field, and so he told me like right off the bat, like when I was first starting to kind of like get back to where I was like I know what's going on. Okay, like I'm hurt, it's bad. When I'm in a rehab facility called Shepherd Center in Atlanta, Georgia. It's like top 10 in the country for brain and spinal cord rehab places. And
Okay.
so I'm in a good place. My brother's like, hey, look, do you know how hard it was you trained in motocross? He's like, you got to train just hard in this. If he's like even harder, they said even harder. So he's like, you got to go like as hard as you can because the first year is super crucial in a traumatic brain injury for recovery.
Okay.
So like the first year was like Monday through Friday. I was living in a. That's what I did. I did that like freaking 5 days a week. That's what I was doing. My job like was motocross. I was doing. I was
Yeah.
training. I was learning how to.
The
It
brain
started out with
training
just
facility.
yeah. It started out with literally me sitting on a table, just holding like without back support. Like that was an accomplishment to like ordering my own food where people can understand what I'm saying because my left side like is so weak that like I couldn't my speech wasn't very clear. And so yeah, I
Okay.
mean I suffered full on like hemiparesis on one side, like just severe weakness on my left side to the point where my left side was like flaccid for a little bit, and it became spastic where I could start using things again. But I mean, I spent the whole so I got hurt March 5th, and I didn't leave the rehab facility until July 8th. And so like I
Wow.
left on a cane. And so like I wasn't even walking without support yet. Like I still was really injured. I still had like some speech deficit, like that whole span, like I still was doing like some intensive rehab stuff. So like I would say probably 2.5 years working my ass off before I felt like I was back to driving again and I was like living a normal life again. Probably 2.5 years of like hard like training because like I did most of my rehab in Georgia and then like Florida at Shepherd Center. And then it became to
Right.
a point where it was just a matter of just working out and like training hard. So I like got to the point where I was like, it was so expensive. And then I was like, just start going to the gym now because at this point it's just a matter of getting stronger and kind of just like figuring out on your own. So I kind of did as much as I could to absorb all the information from different therapists over my first year of like being able to work with therapists and knowing how to do it and like, where the resources were, get good doctors, get the right input. And then from there, I took it on my own and I still do it to this day. And I'm still, I still have I still have a limp. I don't walk perfect, and my left arm is still weak. Like mostly just my hand. I don't have the dexterity in my left fingers, so I don't have much use of my left hand. But I mean, it doesn't like I said, there's not much I can't do. I still can ride my road bike, and so for the I feel recovered. So I can't say I'm 100%
Yeah,
recovered.
it doesn't hold you back much
I'm
throughout like
recovered.
day to day.
There's nothing that I can't do. So it wouldn't be fair to say that I'm like disabled or what like I'm recovered enough to look. I could do it. Like call me tomorrow, but let's go do whatever you're gonna do. Like I'm down for it. I'll be able to do it. I'm not gonna snowboard and go downhill mountain biking and take a chance to hit my head again as I can. But for the most part, I'll do whatever else it is. I mean, I can do whatever else. I can go walk around a theme park for 2 hours. Like so. I'm recovered enough to live a normal life, so I think that's recovered in my eyes.
Yeah.
I feel 100%. I call it recovery because I mean,
Yeah.
I'm living my own now. There's nothing I really can't do, so I would call it recovered.
Absolutely.
But
Aside
it's
from
perspective,
extreme sports,
yeah.
you're recovered as much as you can be. Let's spin the clocks back. Let's go back to where your story really begins with motocross. You're originally from North Carolina, correct?
Yes, yeah, yeah. So like my old track's like right not far, it's like 20 minutes down the road from where I'm at now. Like
Okay.
it's not there anymore, but yeah, I grew up in Graham, North Carolina. Went to school and everything. Yep.
North Carolina. At what age do you get introduced to the sport of motocross? How does I assume your dad introduced you to it. What was that first bike? And before you start with the story, this is I find very common among a lot of the amateur guys who ended up doing really well, is it immediately got super serious super fast. Like guys go from like they don't race at all until like literally the next year they're trying to go to Loretta's, which for me, like it wasn't even a thought to even try and qualify for some of that. Something about racing in the States is like, all right, if we're gonna race, we're gonna try and go to the biggest, baddest race in the world, and we're gonna do it next year. Which is incredible. But what was that like for you, and sort of being introduced to it, and almost immediately, like, did it immediately become something that you were fairly serious about?
So I know so my earliest memory so I know I this is just off based off of like pretty much my parents. Like I don't really remember this, but like I started riding around age 4 or 5. I remember
Okay.
riding like in my backyard. Like my parents had bought me like like the electric like four wheelers you can get at like Walmart or something like
Yeah,
really
the little
shitty like
Kawasaki thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So like I had got one of those like back in like freaking the mid '90s. So
Yeah, Power
um
Wheels. I
yeah, so
wanted
like
one
a
of
Power
those,
Wheels
but
thing. And so then that went from like I was riding the shed, but my dad was like, "Let's get him a PW50." My dad grew up racing for fun, so
okay.
my dad got me a PW50 with training wheels, and he made me a little track in the backyard, right at like in our half-acre yard in the backyard in the neighborhood, and then with a jump to getting then the training wheels came off, and then I got like a Cobra 50, and then we're going to like the local track, and then oh we're gonna try to race the next weekend, and then I'm winning like every local race that we sign up for, and then we're going to like the indoor series around here. It's in the winter's what you do around here in the winters to go to the indoor series or at the arena cross
Okay.
races, and then that led to someone being like, hey, let's try. You should let them try to race for Loretta's, and at the time people were talking about like my first year I qualified as an alternate, man. I went to Loretta's. I freaking wadded up on the first turn, got run over. I got like 36th place overall. We hung up like we got like a sign made because I thought that was sick. Put it at our house. I mean, then we built then after Loretta's, we built the track that you've seen on Verb and stuff. So we
Right.
bought some property and built the track, and then that led to like all of a sudden like I'm going to Minios, and then I'm skipping around a little bit. So the following year after '98, I went back to Loretta's and I won all three motos in a row, and I beat like going there. I raced like Baggett and all. There was all these different people, and people were like didn't know who I was, and I won all three of my motos in the 51 4 to 6 class, and then that got me some recognition from Cobra, and then I started hitting all the major races, like all the Texas Spring Nationals. Back then it was like Mosier Valley, and then started hitting Minios and doing the whole like amateur circuit, and slowly picking up sponsors to where like just it just kind of like slow progression. It wasn't like yeah, just kind I think it just like slowly just hitting more races and I don't know. Yeah. It's like a slow progression, I think, man.
No kidding. 36th overall in
Yeah.
1998. 1999 rolls
Yeah.
around,
Yeah.
and you go 1-1-1, beating guys like Blake Baggett, Zach Freeberg. Zach's another guy I should get.
Are you
I should
looking?
have
Are you
on this.
looking at the results?
I am looking at it right
Oh,
now, and
nice.
actually, what's crazy is tenure is no longer with us. Dylan Slusser.
Slusher, dude. Oh man, yeah,
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 he
yeah. There's a
was in
lot of
there
them.
as well.
Yeah,
Nick Paluzzi.
yeah,
Oh, yeah, there's some heavy hitters in here.
yeah.
Ryan Zimmer. He raced. And Eli Tomac. Never heard of him. Eli Tomac goes 31, 24, 25. So he was consistently back of the pack in 1999. Yeah, like you just put the boots to him. You probably put a lap on him every
Yep.
single moto that weekend at
Yeah,
Loretta's, 1999.
yeah.
So continue on with your story. Sorry I interrupted you.
Okay, no. So, like I said, I think that everyone, how you mentioned Tomac in '99 doing finishing very well. I think people kind of like progress at different rates, especially the riders. So like as we all kind of start going, like we all grow at different rates. So some kids are bigger and they're better in that class that particular year because they fit the bike better or something. So you kind of
Yeah.
see guys going in and out. And so like I was really strong through my like going from King Cobra 50s to 65s. So I signed with Suzuki when I said that's around when I was age 11. That started with a 65. That was like it was just like the Kawasaki 65. They just
Yeah, yellow plastics on the 65.
yeah.
They shared
So
the 65 and the Super
yeah,
Mini that year.
I had prior to that won another Loretta Lynn's title on a. I was at least winning motos in the 60 class, and I was racing with guys like Stroop in like the 7 and 9 class, race older guys, and I was like doing top three. So I was beating guys that were older than me. So I was really strong on 60s, and then going into 80s. Um, I ended up I did a 6 moto win at Loretta's one year. I won like both 85, 7 to 11 stock and Mon classes. Like I went 6 for 6, like all 6 moto
You
wins.
did.
Yeah. So
2004.
yep.
7 to
704.
11. And yeah, like that same
Yeah.
Eli Tomac getting
Yeah. I think
second in
Barcia
all.
was in there too. Like yeah. So I mean
Landon
yeah. So
Courier.
yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
name.
Yeah, dude.
Justin Starling. Malcolm Stewart. Sean Cunningham. Austin Howell. Nick Paluzzi again. Cody Green. I gotta catch up with him at some point. Yeah, like literally there's some crazy talent in through there's Slusser again, Zach Freeberg, Zach Bell. Like there's some heavy hitting names in throughout like on this entire class.
Yeah.
And you were on top of that. Six straight motos. That's actually there's not a lot of guys who have done that
Yeah.
coming through and just had basically a perfect weekend at Loretta's because like you can have a day of mud, you can have just like and literally it's the whole country's fastest dudes. You got to be on top of your game like for an entire week. It's that's probably the crazy thing about Loretta's.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough because it's like that one race everyone puts pressure on. So like
Yeah.
that particular reason too makes it difficult to perform. And so around that time, I was training around guys like Nico Izzy, and so I was around with really fast guys, and I was doing a ton of training already. Like I was like starting to do like road biking, and so I think I was like 12 years old around that time, and so I was already starting to do a lot of training, and so I was at the top of my class like consistently beating a lot of the guys, and then I ended up tearing my ACL in like I think it was '05, and that's what like kind of I think that's what kind of set me back, and I lost pace with guys like with Baggett and Tomac because they all went pro like 2000, I think 2009 or 10 they all
Nine or
went
ten,
pro.
yeah.
Yeah, so
Because you
like
came back
I should have been on that. I should have been
yeah.
on like I was on track to be with those guys, and then I fell back. I tore my ACL and took off like 9 months, and so I kind of fell back. I lost basically a year of progression, and so it took me a minute to get climbed back up, and so it took me to about 2009 to get back to where somewhat of where I kind of should be, and that's kind of when I started to get closer to where those guys were and kind of get back up on pace where I should be and get closer. And that's when I think
There
I
you
ended up
go.
getting I think I got a podium in the A class in 2009.
Yeah, 2000. Actually, 2009. You were battling with. You had a
Yep.
couple bad motos in both,
Okay.
250 and Pro Sport.
Yeah.
But you like seconds and then a 25th.
Yeah, I remember it being
Getting
muddy. Yeah, so had it, but that was like so I was starting to kind of like resurface a little. I was
Yeah.
having like good
Battling
motos
with
there.
Dean
And
Wilson, Lake
my
Baggett.
speed was there, but I just wasn't performing well all the time. So you kind of
Yeah.
see, you
And,
start to make some. I was popping in and out a little bit, and then
um,
had a very good year at
what does that
Minios.
do for a confidence of a guy at your level? You know what I mean? Like for on a day like in 2004, you're basically untouchable for an entire week. 2007 rolls around, you're 14, 15 on 85 modified, which is basically at that point the pinnacle of mini bike racing. And Tomac goes 1-3-1. You go 2-1-3 for I think probably like a 1 point difference for the championship. That's pretty wild. But like it, at that level, first is all you're worried about. Like, and to not get that was probably a bitter taste in your mouth.
I mean, yeah, I mean, so it was just like, I mean, obviously I knew I'd lost some ground, so it was just kind of like, it was just like I was I was just fighting uphill the whole trying to. I knew I'd lost some track, so I was just trying to figure out how to get back to where I was and kind of just consistently training and just working on. It was mostly, I think, but yeah, the confidence that you mentioned is probably the biggest thing that just knowing that like I had lost ground and that they were beating me now probably affected me more than the actual time lost was. If
Yeah,
that
like
makes
that's
sense.
that mental warfare. You know what I
Just
mean?
like
Like
yeah, once if you win 6 motors in a row, it's like you're winning before you even go to the line, dude. So like I had lost that edge when I got hurt, and so to get that back, it's hard to get that back without physically doing it, man. Like to get that, like I'm not sure that you can get that without actually winning all the time. Like I don't know if
yeah,
I'm explaining that correctly, but it's a mindset that just like
I agree. I think that's what happened to Zach Osborne. Is that
yeah
Zach Osborne was one of the most lights out, highly touted amateurs coming out in 2005. Like he should have been the next guy. Like he like for if honestly like for all intents and purposes, his amateur career overshadowed a guy like Ryan Villapoto by miles. But like when it came down to performing in the first initial years of his career, it didn't happen, and then from there it all falls apart. Whereas like you see like kind of a fork in the road. Villapoto comes out, wins his first outdoor championship, and you're off to the races. You become an absolute legend in the sport. I don't think guys can get it back until they actually go out there and actually physically do it, win championships, and do what you said.
I think there's an advantage too, to like you see kind of like the rivalries in like Cooper Webb versus Adams and Cirillo. I think that
Right.
there's an advantage to like getting beat a lot too early on in your career because like it'll allow you to excel at a later point, dude. So like
Mm-hmm.
I think
Keep you hungry.
some guys like myself, like I could have peaked early in my amateurs and won those 6 motos, like when really like if I just slowed down my progression a little bit and did that later in my career, I could have ended up being a lot better, you know? Like I'm not sure that you. I think it's good to learn how to lose, if that makes sense. Like I think you should
Yeah.
know that way. Kind of being an underdog, you end up being so strong that like if you once you go to pro and you get beat a few times, you don't freak out, dude. You're used to being in the back of the pack, so you know what it's like to fight. Like
Yeah.
Cooper Webb is a
I
gnarly
think
guy,
there's
but the guy's so mentally strong, man.
a value in hating that though too. Like I think of a guy like Ricky Carmichael who like if you ever saw him after a race he lost, his level of disgust with himself and like just straight up pissed that he lost was so far over and above the level of elation that he would show when he'd win. Like he would literally, you could tell he hated losing way more than he loved winning, and that I think is a very powerful thing. But yeah, and obviously like it would be such a hard thing to sort of like have like a slow burn as far as your success in the sport. You always want to be that top guy.
Yeah,
Like to say that it would benefit you by having like basically having a big slice of humble pie at Loretta's is a tough sell on a kid when he's
yeah,
14 years old.
yeah. I mean, I think it's just the way it is, the way it worked out. There's no real
Yeah.
explanation, just the way it is, man.
But like, what are some of your fondest memories of racing with that Rockstar Suzuki amateur team? Like that was like at such a level where you guys were like head to toe a lot of the times in Fox. You had so much gear, the coolest helmets. You got Wes Williams following you guys everywhere you go. Everything's cool. Everything like the One Industries hats, the hoodies, this, that, and the other thing. Like that to me, and of course that's when I was about I'm 4 years older than you, so that was right when everything was absolutely at the pinnacle. What was that like? What was it being like? Basically, you're in the eye of the storm when everything was cool, sponsors were hooking things up, and it was a really, really cool time in the sport.
So I think like my coolest memories are when Suzuki was really popping. Is like when like it was like Millsaps and Licht and whatever. I mean, you remember like Partridge and all those guys.
Yeah.
That's when it was real. Like that was super cool. That's when there was a lot of stuff going. A lot of bikes were coming around. Everyone's getting a lot of gear. The sport was like really throbbing that time. But like I think too, like the sad part about it is like you don't really realize how cool those moments are until they're gone, man. Like not until you're like sitting back there, then you're like, oh, that was really dope. All this stuff was really dope doing that stuff. You don't really often think about it when you're doing it, man. Because
Yeah, you're just too caught up in it.
yeah,
Like
like,
obviously,
and that's just like a fault
yeah.
of humans in general. Like we all end up getting caught up and don't think about the current moment. We're always worried about tomorrow or something. But it was cool though. Like the verb stuff, man. Like I met Wes Williams at a Ronnie Tishner school at Bubba Crosby's track, dude. Like he had
Okay.
a Sony Handycam and he was making videos for fun for Goat Creations before it was even a company, man. And he was doing like funny, like he would do like home videos like for riders, like for fun and stuff. And then he was like, hey man, like he heard we had a track, then I started hanging out with him more. He started going to more Tishner. So I started seeing him more at like Bubba's tracks. I would go down there and ride. And he ended up coming up to our track. He's like, hey, I want to start a filming, like a video company. I think we're going to call it Verb. Can we come film at your house? We'll film you and Gavin. So he came up and stayed at my house for like a week. And him and his friends all filmed. And they ended up like, they were traveling around and ended up like building this crazy big company. It's amazing, dude. But like, I seen all that. I watched all that go down. I was like a part of it. I was there when he was first starting. So it was really cool.
And then now Verb is back. He literally came on this podcast to announce it after literally 2 years of me bothering him on social media of asking when's Verb coming back, when's Verb coming back, and he'd always say next week, next week, next week. Well, he finally called me about a year ago, maybe 10 months ago, right as we just went into this global pandemic. Said Verb is coming back full time. Let's go. Here we go. And yeah, they're like he still does a lot of work with Red Bull and stuff like that. But isn't it cool to have Verb back?
Oh, it's awesome. Yeah, Wes is almost like Wes is pretty much family to me, dude. Like I know he sold a lot of I think he sold a lot of IT 119 shirts when I was hurt to raise money and or stickers or so he did something for me to raise money for my rehab fund. And so yeah, Wes has always been like has always been like a good friend of mine, and I love that dude. It's cool to see him back.
Super innovative and always a fun guy to have around. Like when like at that level, and you guys were obviously you were like basically between you and Eli were like 1 and 1A for like East Coast, West Coast fastest kids on super minis. You'd mentioned that you're when you're in it, you don't really realize. Like, did you have a grasp on the fact that like you're probably, if not the fastest super mini rider in North America at the time? Like that's a pretty cool thing to think about.
I mean, yeah, I definitely knew I was good, but I always like stayed humble, and I never let myself get too out of my head, man. Like I always was worried about, like I was always like thinking about like where Eli was, and so I never really got out of my head to the point where I was like, I'm
Okay.
so good, I don't need to worry about it. Like I knew I was good, but I never got out of my head. If that makes sense.
Um, what about the pressure of having to basically produce? Like you talk about the pressure at the pros, those guys have to do well. Loretta's and the very few number of races like the Oak Hills and the Lake Whitneys, this, that, and the other thing that you hit throughout the years, like you don't race as much as and maybe kids did in the 90s. When you roll up to the line, you're expected to do one thing and one thing only, and that's to most likely rip the whole shot and lead every lap. That's an expectation that I would imagine is tough to live up to. I've literally only done that once in my entire career of racing for 20 years. What was it like to basically be sitting on the line and have that be the only expectation of you?
I think there's levels to it, like right, like so like there's different levels of racing that like you experience while I was going through like to get to the point where I was. And so like that being like Loretta Lynn's qualifiers, you're like, hopefully no one good shows up. You're like, so like there's that like anxiety of like someone fast showed up. You're like, okay, cool, no one like that fast showed up. So you're not like that worried about. Then you go to Loretta's, you know everyone fast to be there, so you're freaking out, but you just deal with it because you have to deal with it, man. So you have no other choice. Then you go pro, and there's a whole other level of like anxiety. You're like, holy shit, this is a whole another level. It's way gnarlier. So I think you just end up dealing with it like you do anything else, like being nervous to go to school for the first day or something. It's relevant to kind of what you're used to being nervous for, man, or yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I guess everything it's all relative, right? It's all based on where
Yeah,
you're
it's all relative
what
to
you're
what
used
we.
to.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, like obviously throw me in that scenario and I'm just like complete bag of nerves because A, I know I can't do it. And also I've never been at that level. But who are some of the guys that you raced with and rode with that either were a really close rival of yours or like an absolutely lights out rider that maybe we never actually got to see what they could really do on like a national stage or never got to be in the spotlight of a guy like yourself? Like who's kind of a diamond in the rough that people might not know about?
I've got a perfect video for you to look up, man. So I used to train at this place when I moved to Florida. I moved to Florida around age 15. My parents wanted to move further south for the weather, and then it was better for me for riding too. So it was a good choice at the time. And so we all moved to Florida, and I used to ride on a track called Hard Rock. And
Yep.
there was a kid who used to live there over the winter. His name was Ray Lebovich, dude. We all called him Russian Ray. And me and him used to do. He taught me how to hit a freestyle ramp, dude. And we used to do all the free riding stuff that you like now that's so popping, like all the stuff that like all the doing like all the cool like wheel taps and like all the like the freestyle like type riding shit, like free ride shit. We used to do all that shit at Hard Rock. And I got a video. I've got like an amateur edit on YouTube just of us hitting ramps, of with me and Ray hitting ramps. If you look up Ian Trettel at Hard Rock, you'll find me and Ray on there. And I think Russian Ray always had like he was always like a super cool dude that I thought that was like super talented on a dirt bike. Like could do stuff that like he'd teach me how to do certain things that I would normally never try on my own. Like there's different types of skills. Just like for skiing, like some people can do tricks and rails, and some people can just go down the hill. Like there's different levels to
Yeah.
sports. And so Ray had a cool level of talent that I had never experienced before, that like jumping over roads, like over a fence, and like jumping jumps and like landing between rain ruts, and just different like wild stuff, like going up hill climbs and wheel tapping rocks and stupid shit like that. Like we did so much cool shit that like was at the time didn't seem like it was that cool, but now like I'm like look back, I wish we would have filmed these with such cool content, dude.
No kidding. It's those intangible skills that
Yeah,
absolutely
exactly.
get people mind blown. Like you see a lot of that stuff now being released where uh, like I'm thinking there's this one Graham, I can't remember his last name. He does a lot of like wheelie stuff on KT on Husqvarna's and like just like stuff that just like it just takes so much skill and the appreciation and the respect for it is just absolutely next level. What would you say was what like obviously you had the perfect year at that Loretta's, but aside from that, what was your peak? Like what were you most dominant and you were absolutely on top of your game?
I think my very last year as an amateur, like I didn't really there was no option other than performing well and getting a ride and continuing the career. Like there was no backup plan at that point. Like I was like I haven't gone to college. My parents weren't going to support me to travel around in a van and ride race profiteer. Like that was like win a title and get a ride. And so like that was a moment that like I was training so hard. Like around age 18, I was like I have to get my shit together and like really start training hard. So like I got really hardcore into training, and like I had a trainer. I was doing different types of mental training and visualization stuff, and so like I was probably peak shape like physically 2010 going to Loretta's. I ended up winning that A title and getting that ride with Rockstar. So like that was like a super satisfying moment, and then getting 10th at Southwick, my rookie, being like a top finishing rookie of Southwick, and then also at Houston Supercross. So both of my first professional debuts was pretty dope. And that kind of like that was like kind of be like oh, that's sick. I did it, dude. Like I actually got, like I made it to where I wanted to get to. Like it was kind of like a chance to breathe for a minute. You're like, oh, they finally did it. Like kind of back to reflect on a cool place to reflect, you know?
Absolutely, it was such a really cool time in motocross, and you were center stage and doing extremely well. And the crazy thing about that is that the bikes were progressing so much during that time as well. Yeah, like 2010's your last year at Loretta's, and then slated to turn pro in 2011, where like as for the 2011 season.
Yep.
And unfortunately you get injured. That's what basically what we talked about to kick off the show. Um, like like what was the transition like, or how were you approached by Bobby Hewitt to like when you get the call, we're taking you to the pros. This is what it's going to be like, and then from there, poster shoots, testing, and everything that comes along with it.
So if you recall, I started riding for Bobby's amateur team, Team Extreme 2009. So I
Yeah.
into 2010 amateur season, I was on Bobby's team through Lake Whitney all the way to Loretta's, and so I've known Bobby for like over a year now, so I was comfortable with all the stuff that they were doing, and he approached me like sometime in the week at Loretta's, and he's like, hey, because Blake Baggett had gotten hurt, and for the last 3 hours, like, hey, do you want to fill in for Blake's spot? And so it was basically like I just filled in and raced I only raced one because I got hurt at Steel City, but I raced Southwick and performed well enough that like I signed my contract before the outdoors were over, I think.
Well,
And
there you go. And
so,
I'm also noticing in this 250A class that you, the 250A slash pro sport class, you're at the guy who went DNS the whole weekend, Brandon Mays, B
yeah.
Mazy. Like the names in here are ridiculous. And this is actually something that I don't want to put a damper on the whole conversation, but whenever I go back and look at this stuff, and even when I watch old Verb videos, is that it's really cool to look back at, like, see how certain guys were doing, but it also reminds me of how many guys that had top level talent, that some of them, like, they rise and they have long successful careers in motocross, but I'm looking at guys like the guy who won that class, Zach Freeberg, with
Yeah.
like I don't recall him racing more than a couple of years at the pro level. Lowell Spangler, Cole Martinez had a ton of great rides, even raced up here in Canada, but we didn't see him for but he's no longer racing pro. Jason Brooks, a guy named Jason Anderson, I've never heard of him, and AJ Catanzaro, who's going to be racing tomorrow. Isn't it kind of crazy to see, like, just how like how many guys are at that level? And but once you get to the pros, it's like a whole different ball of wax, and like it's a bit of a meat grinder. There's a lot of guys that kind of get left behind.
No, yeah, the talent was deep. But like I think if you look deeper into it, like a lot of those guys are still doing something, just doing something outside of motocross. Like I know Zach
Yeah.
Freeberg, he has a track, and so like they're all still they're all I think they're all talented. Like you see Brandon Mays with all of his music stuff is still he's doing well. He's like got a big following. So like a lot of the guys are still doing something on some level. They're just maybe not racing anymore. So I think they all were talented. It just kind of like shifted gears a little bit, went a different direction. You kind of lose touch with where they are.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that goes to show that if you're talented and you are you know how to work hard at something, and you find success at a certain level, at an elite level, you can find that level of success in other things. And as long as you know how to apply yourself and dig deep, is that maybe the best lesson that you learned over that entire career of yours?
It's gotta be, man, because like I said, I think that the brain can do incredible things when put in the correct environment and under the right principles and under the right guidelines. You can make yourself do incredible things you think you can do. But it's all about right, like we talked about, with the same mindset for motocross. Like keep finding that happy medium balance, the flow state between stress and boredom. And so I think it's just all it's all about mindset. I think that people that were going to dirt bike just happen to start riding. That's the first thing they got into, so that's what they stuck with. They could be good at anything. If you think about it.
I completely agree with you. Before I let you go here on the Big MX Radio podcast, and I really appreciate you making all the time for us that you have and sharing your story, is I need your best, maybe even two of your best Wes Williams stories. Maybe one where he was like you can you can throw him under the bus at one point, or another time where he was a pretty
So
awesome guy.
I got one, man. So every time, like when I had the track in North Carolina, when we had the track in North Carolina that we all rode at. We were super into paintball, dude. Like we had paintball courses like set up all over the property. And so
Yeah.
it always would be like I had like a real good gun. It always would be like convincing someone whoever was there to use like to play with us with a shitty gun and just let us shoot the shit, like fuck them up, dude, or something. And so Wes just wore like a ski mask with motocross goggles. We didn't have a helmet for him, and he got shot in the mouth hole, I think, dude. Like it went through it went hit him in the mouth. Yeah, I think
Oh,
sure. I think it hit him in the mouth. I think that was him. Someone hit him in the mouth. I think it was West, dude.
oh man, I'm gonna have to text him about that. That's crazy, dude. And it's amazing to see that you have so many amazing memories within the sport of motocross. You can look back fondly and take the lessons learned to continue to be successful at what you're doing now and what you're gonna do in the future. I think that there's a bright future for you, and I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's all about just like I think it's just about keeping yourself healthy, keeping the thing you put your body and brain in the right place. You can pretty much get to do whatever you want to do.
That's a fantastic lesson, man. What would you say? Well, the last question I have for you is, what would be the best piece of advice that you would have for a young up and coming motocross racer, whether they're wanting to get to the Loretta Lynn's level, or maybe they're already at that level and they're looking to really go elite and make that next step to turn pro. What would you if you had a moment to say something to that person? What would you say?
So I do a ton of motocross coaching, and I always tell like I love my favorite riders work with just like younger kids that like are just doing it for fun and like aren't really out to like win. I'm just like keep it fun and remember that everyone starts out at a point where they like everybody started out at some point where they suck, dude. And that's if you really think about it, like everyone started out at a point where they had no idea what they were doing. Like every guy you see on TV got on a dirt bike at one point and was like, "What the hell do I even do?" They had no idea what to do, and now they're gnarly. So it's like we all start at the same level, so technically anybody could really get there if they just put in the proper work and spend the proper time and take the right steps in the right direction. They could get there. So there's there's no one is gonna there's no way for me or anyone else to tell someone that they can't do it. So I'm always like, there's no reason why you can't be good. Given
Yeah,
the you can be as good as you want to be.
be
You know,
patient, put in the work, and good things happen when you do that.
and just close your eyes and grind, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, that's another thing. I've said that tons of times, especially when it comes to fitness. Like people always want to they want to know how fit they're gonna get and how quickly they're gonna get there. They want to know it for sure. When for me, it's all about literally like put your head down, work like hell, and when you pop your head up to see where you've come, like you're gonna be like and you're gonna be amazed with how far you've come. But don't expect it to happen overnight. You know what I mean? Like find out what your body would look like after 100 workouts, but don't like look in the mirror or don't take inventory of where you're at until you've done that 100 workouts, because so many people do like one set of crunches, they look down expecting to see a set of abs, and it's not going to be there.
Yeah. I think it's patience, dude. You gotta build a foundation and you gotta be consistent, you gotta be patient.
Awesome, man. Well, this has been fantastic. So much good content and so much just a great conversation with you. I hope a lot of people listen to this. I hope they get as much as I did out of the conversation, because if that's the case, then we might have changed some people's lives here. Um, this has been great. I think we're definitely going to have to make you a repeat offender. Maybe we get you and Wes on the show at the same time at some point. That would be absolutely bonkers. I want to see that happen. But this has been fantastic, and I really appreciate the time.
Brad, thank you so much for having me, man. I had a great time talking to you, dude. Let's do it again.
Let's do it again, my friend. You don't hang up just yet, but for podcast sake, we're going to cut it off
All right, dope.
right there. Perfect.
All right, cool. How'd it go? You
That
doing all
was
right?
Yeah, no, that was fantastic.
All
I
right,
just
cool.
stopped the recording.
All right.
I'm gonna start. I'm gonna.
What do you record that on, dude? Do you have a program or something you're recording audio on, or what?
Well, I have
You got a
a
mixer?
program called Call Recorder
Oh, okay.
that literally it records everything that comes into and out of Skype, and it then separates them into
Oh,
uh,
two files.
into two files, so
Whoa.
that like say if like you had a dog barking in the background while I'm talking, I can snip that out. Or if
Yeah.
say
Okay.
like my chick
Yeah.
comes home while
Yeah.
you're talking, I can snip that out. So I can touch things up afterwards. Or if say you like if I'm talking to somebody that's not very loud, I can take their track and they can just boost it up a little bit so that our levels are similar.
How is my
Uh,
audio on this iMac? Is it good or no?
Sorry?
How's my audio on this? Is it okay?
You sound fantastic, very clear. The room you're in is obviously very big and it echoes a tiny bit.
Oh, okay.
But like aside from getting like a setup where you basically have like what people will do is
Well,
they'll
I
get like that.
I have AirPods. I could do like I could have did something like that next time. You know, like I wear my AirPods or something. That
Okay,
would if you think I'm not
maybe
sure.
AirPods. I'm not really familiar with how great the audio is from AirPods. That might have been
I see a lot of guys doing it
yeah.
on TV and shit. That's why I was saying I don't know if that'd be any better.
No, I think it still came out fantastic.
All right.
So I'm happy with
What
it.
hey, what part of that conversation did you find most interesting, man? Like to be straight up.
Honestly, I found it really interesting in how you sort of like
The
unpack the things that you learned about from your experience. You know what I mean? Like what you took away from it. Like obviously, I like the cool
I have this.
stories when you're riding fast, but I like the like what came from that.
That's crazy, man. So I got into like I was telling you like I'm into all this different type of like tech shit. I got a buddy who does like he does the domestic embellishing like sort of like screen printing and embroidery, and I set up online storefronts for him for customers that want to like sell their merch through like an online website, and he'll print and produce and ship all through his warehouse, and I set all that up. Like I set up like a website that like prints like shipping labels and all the shit goes right through his office, and he can ship everything right out, just slap a label on it, it's gone. And anyways, what I'm getting at is um I was gonna say I was probably going over this now. But what was I going on, dude?
That train of thought.
I just lost it totally, dude.
That's okay.
No, well. Oh, okay. So I met a guy, and okay, sorry, man, I totally lost track. So a guy that he was trying to get a store for named Pat McNamara. This dude was on the Joe Rogan podcast, and we went down there. And so he brought me to talk about just the tech. And so I sat down at a table with this guy, and me and Aaron were both talking to Pat, and Pat's got like 300,000 followers on Instagram. The dude's like a famous dude. He's like a Delta Force operator, retired Navy SEAL guy.
Yeah.
And he was like, "What's your story, man?" And I was like, "Oh, I used to race motocross, and I got hurt and I had a TBI." And he was like, "Oh shit, I know." I said, "I know all about traumatic brain injuries, man." He's like, "I know." He's like, "I got tons of buddies. I had one myself." And like that little fact made that dude fucking like. I ended up training the guy. Like I got him a bike and we took him riding for the weekend, dude. Like that little piece of bit of my story made that guy a fan of me, dude.
That's cool. That's really
So
cool, man. And
it's an interesting thing. Like nothing about like not being like he's like, "Oh, that's cool. Dirt bikes are cool, man. You're pro." But like the TBI thing like made him a hardcore fan of me. And I'm like, wonder how many people were out there that could relate to something like that. Because like the special part of my story is like being like at the top and then going like all the way back down, dude. Like that's a
yeah,
gnarly adjustment,
that's
dude. Like the
that's
humility
the
in that's
comeback
insane.
story, man. That's the people like there's been 1,000 documentaries built around about that story of climbing to the top of the mountain and then getting kicked down. It's
Hey man, I'm gonna grab some peacock and I'm gonna grab some medicine with that, dude.
yeah.
Yeah, so it makes me wonder if talking about that more would be would grow my audience at all, or if
Yeah,
I need to talk
totally.
about
Whatever's
motocross.
relatable, right? Like people don't want to see something perfect. They want to see that you have bad days too, and that you can overcome those things. They don't want to see a train wreck. They want to see somebody get kicked down and come back. Like that's literally every Rocky movie.
I mean, like if you asked me to compare what was harder to get to where I was in motocross or to get to where I am in my injury, like in recovery wise, it'd be my injury like 1,000 times, dude.
Yeah.
Like I worked way harder to get in. I'm not even like perfect, dude. I still have a lot to go. Like there's a lot of shit that I have to work on. Like I'm still working on. Like I work on all the time. So and it's just it's gnarly. No one would ever know it, but it's like it's just a fucking grind. And like there's things that I do to kind of keep myself from burning out and like getting depressed and fucking like just blowing my brains out. There's certain things that I do to kind of stay to keep myself motivated and to keep going.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like part of me thinks talking about those things could be interesting to some people.
Definitely would be.
But
And
I don't know.
honestly,
Like,
it's
I'm not sure. You think capturing it in a format like this would be appropriate, or do you think I need to do like more of like a personal vlog?
Yeah, I think it would probably comes down to like more of a vlog, or if you like the thing that that I find congruent and then consistent with all podcasters is that they have one thing that they're specifically passionate about, and that's like sort of like the
Yeah.
center of what they're wanting to talk about, and then they sort of branch out from there. But I think that it's something that you could start out as like sort of like a vlog or somewhat. You're just basically keeping people more updated via your story and those types of things, and then
Yeah.
it could graduate like similar to like honestly how Joe Rogan did it is that like people started being
Hey,
interested in
you
how
have
he lives his life, and then he's like, I'm just going to do this full time. I'm going to talk to people about how I feel about certain things. And it doesn't matter what it is. I'm going to give my 2 cents on it and people enjoy it.
check out my last Instagram post, dude, and look how much interaction I got on it. And like look what I wrote. Like I wrote like just a small piece of like insight of going through like just like a little and like the amount of insight, the amount of stuff I got on this shit is crazy, dude. Like
Yeah.
but I need to start like look at the people like Anderson like no one ever comments on my shit like that. Like there's like 3 or 4 verified comments on this post, dude. Like
Yeah.
and so I'm wondering, I'm like, dude, if I could do that once a week, like, fuck, dude, that's how you grow a brand, dude. That's how you do it. But it's like, fuck, how do you do it, man? So I'm thinking that might be like a direction I need to go in, and
Kyle
just
Swanson,
talk
there's a
about the
name.
journey, right?
B Maisie, like we said.
Yeah,
Todd Freeberg. Is that Zach's old man?
that's Zach's dad, yeah.
So his old man.
But yeah,
Because yeah,
like
him and
500
Steven
likes or
Triller
something
were
like that.
tight
Yeah,
back in the day.
yeah.
Like how many years? Like how old's? And like honestly, even like I talked about on the podcast, like guys like Landon Courier. Like I think it would be cool if you called up guys like Landon and could share experiences that you guys had of that. Like you could like I wouldn't say you guys have the exact same story, but I assume you have some similar
I mean,
stories.
no, I mean, I talk to Landon every single day. Me and him are actually working on. We're in the process of trying to do some motocross training camps together. So we're working on some different marketing ideas. We're running Facebook ads in different states and trying to plan out stuff like that. So I'm wondering if like maybe just recording me and Landon working together on stuff that we're doing would be an outlet.
Yeah, I think people would be really interested in that. Like guys like yourself, guys
Just
like
cut it
Landon.
YouTube and then cut up clips on Instagram. Is that
Yeah,
what like
typically, yeah. That's
time,
not
like
that's
just
that's
literally
the recipe
upload
right there.
like a 45-minute video of us talking and then cut up some clips for Instagram of interesting parts.
Yeah, definitely. And I think YouTube is gonna be your platform.
Yeah, okay. You think I'm all right? You think I'm decent at speaking?
Yeah, I do. I
All right.
absolutely do. I think if you want to get better at it,
Yeah,
you
dude.
have to listen to more podcasts and different kinds of podcasts and find a cadence that you really enjoy, something that like the way that sportscasters have like that certain sort of like the way they walk through an announcement of something, like there's a rhyme to that reason as to why they sort of like they fluctuate their voice and the way they ask questions.
Yeah.
um Rather than like just like two people just sort of shooting the shit, like there's a different tonality there. If you can master that, like that, I think that's the next thing you got to work on is just having something that's like that really like sort of what's going to become your tonality that people, when as soon as they hear you break into the podcast, that like they can recognize the voice, they recognize now's the time, we're gonna hear some things from Ian. Like honestly, like you probably heard like immediately when I started my intro, like my
Yeah.
voice doesn't change a ton, but
But
it's
you go
just
into a
that like
character, huh? You
yeah,
turn
it's
on like
almost like
that character.
yeah, like, it's a bit of a cartoon character, and I think people like it.
My only concern is that like I feel like sometimes I have trouble staying on topic. I might bounce around a little bit. So like trying to like I was trying really hard to follow through my career like I don't know how well I did or not, but like I was trying really hard to like keep things on a timeline and keep them going instead of bouncing like, oh shit, I forgot to mention this because like that shit's kind of tough for me sometimes. I don't know, staying
Yeah,
on topic, but I
no,
think that's can be fixed. Just like doing it more probably, right?
like anything. Like how many podcasts have you done?
Yeah, none.
One. Like as of today, you've done one. I've done 790.
Yeah, okay.
You know what I mean? Like we're like the roles are switched. Like if I would have rolled up to next to you on a track in 2004 when I was on Super Minis, and you would have waxed me, lapped me every 2 laps, like I'm where you're at. I'm
Yeah,
where you were at in 2004, and
yeah,
you're where I was at. So
yeah. I
just
got you.
flip that around. Do the work.
Okay,
Spend
yeah.
the time.
Just practice. I got you, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. Right
And,
on.
and practice with intention, like not just go out there and spin some laps, like figure out how to communicate better, how to project your voice better, like what, and like listen to something back after you've recorded, be like, hey, I hated this, I hated that, I liked what I did here, and then the next time you record something, okay, that was better, I didn't do this as much anymore, and I'm like, you know what I mean, just pick yourself apart, no different than you pick apart your own writing.
Yeah, but don't you think you should create content not for yourself but for other people?
No, I know, but what I mean is
Just
like
like an
be your own toughest critic as far as like
Okay,
trying to,
yeah,
if you want to have like that polished, you know what
yeah,
I mean? Like
yeah. I
if you
got you.
want, yeah, like I feel like I'm hard on myself, but I'm hard on myself so that I'm better for the people who are listening. Like I might get a lot of people who just blow smoke up my ass that say, "Hey, I love the podcast," but like it's the people who don't communicate with me that I need to work on things. Like, you know what I mean? Like a lot of people won't like text you and be like, "Yo, dude, you say absolutely way too fucking often." And I'm like, I do need to work on that.
Oh yeah, okay.
You
I
know what I
hear.
mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah, so I've just been kind of figuring that out, but like at the same time, it's like patience too, right? Like it could be like a lot of this stuff could be building up to something that you don't even know about it. Like that's what makes me wonder how many people are like. There's some people that like give up right before they were about to fucking just excel like to the moon, dude.
Yeah. So like keep working at it and like try and get the creative juices flowing, move in the right direction. If things don't absolutely catch,
Yeah,
pivot, move, change things up a little bit,
I hear
or
you.
and don't expect like to put out a post and to have a million comments and a thousand shares. Like just keep doing what you're doing and be, but more than anything, be consistent. If you're gonna start to put out content, if say like Monday at 6 p.m. is your deal,
Yeah,
make sure that people can expect you there Monday at 6, and they'll continue to come back to it. If you're Monday at 6 and then the next week you're Friday at 4, and then the next week you take 2 weeks off, and
yeah,
you know what I mean, like that, no one's watching that TV show. No
yeah,
one can keep track of it. It's like it's like anybody's favorite show or whatever, any of the favorite piece of entertainment. Like if Supercross didn't start in January every year, like sometimes they start in fucking March, sometimes they start in September.
yeah,
People are like, what the fuck is this?
yeah, dude.
Like it's no different than NFL football. Like first
Yeah,
week in September, I
big.
know what I'm watching. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Be that dependable, and people
yeah.
will watch.
I hear you, man. That's good advice, dude.
Thank you.
It's so simple too, and it's fucking it makes you feel dumb, dude. But like most often, all this stuff is like it's like going to the gym. It's like how do you be fit? It's like, dude, eat
Yeah.
good and
How do you
fucking
get these?
lift weights. It's not that hard, but
No.
it's so simple, but yet it is, man. Right? Like,
The hard part is continuing to do it.
yeah, it's like
Like, do one
yeah,
workout, no problem. Do two workouts, no problem. Do 100 fucking
you
workouts.
have to
Do
become a machine.
300
You have
workouts.
to literally turn into a robot, and you'll fucking yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
but like I found like I do a lot of stuff like so like when I first got hurt, like I started with a lot of things like attention and memory. So I started relying on just creating reminders and like automating parts of my life that I didn't need to rely on my brain to do for me. So like just like setting alarms and fucking reminders on my phone and learning how to really take advantage of just tech on my side. to
Yeah.
like automate shit that I don't need to worry about, dude. And that keeps you extremely consistent. Like, you know, like all my workouts are in certain like note apps on my phone. And so like I know like what to do on Friday and Thursday, and I can fucking record shit if I need to, you know, like things like that that can automate your life and make you way more consistent, dude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What it also comes down to is being disciplined. Like, no different than you were disciplined at one point to practice your corners or stand up through everything.
Yeah.
You got to apply that same method to whatever it is, whether it's your fitness, you want to put on a podcast, whatever, like you want to start being good at cooking. You got to be disciplined. That's all it is, and
Yeah.
being consistent.
Totally.
Consistent discipline it will unlock a lot of success for you. And I'm glad we were able to capture some awesome audio today, bud.
Yeah, dude, I'm stoked, man. You care if I post this, dude?
No, absolutely.
All right,
Please
cool.
do. This would be fantastic.
Because I have a YouTube channel and I do post shit every once in a while. So
Do it.
I'm starting to, yeah, I'm gonna start posting more. But yeah, I'll 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 clip up a good section and I'll post it.
Love it. I would absolutely love that. When you do, I'll send you like you can just shoot me a text. I can send you my number and we'll keep in contact, man. And honestly, if you continue watching Supercrosses and stuff like that, I would love to have you on for like a race review or
Dude,
just
let's
like
do it, man.
yeah,
Same,
for
dude.
sure.
I think it'd be cool. I've always had this idea. No, I don't think anyone does it, but like I think it'd be cool to like do like a live commentary of Supercross, dude. Like
Why not?
where like you have the race playing and you're just like, dude, look at this fucking guy. And you're just like literally just fucking like just like talking shit. People can like turn on Skype and listen to you while they watch the race and get like live fucking commentary.
Yeah, I've done that. I've done that. Like I've Instagram lived me watching a race, and I get like literally like 200 people watching me watch Supercross.
Really?
Yeah, they mute their TV and they're literally like I'm just like, "Oh, what the fuck's Anderson doing right now?"
Yeah,
Like
yeah, exactly.
like Justin Hill's getting tired as fuck, watch. He's going to
Yeah,
get
yeah,
passed right here. Oh yeah,
yeah,
there it is. And
yeah,
like
yeah.
or like no offense to him, but like say like Brock Tickle gets the whole shot. I'm like, "Yeah, that's going to last for like 3 minutes." Like
Yeah, dude.
just
Yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah, yeah.
But
Right on, dude.
love it.
All right, man. Cool. This has been cool. Let's stay in touch, man. For sure,
Definitely.
dude.
Yeah.
I love this.
I'll send you my phone number and we'll keep in
And hey,
contact.
when I hit end, this file should drop in the chat window, dude.
Okay.
So you should be able to download right from there.
Perfect. I
All
love
right.
it.
Hey, we'll talk. We'll stay in touch, man.
Yeah, take care.
Talk soon, bro.